Hello.
Howdy.
Let's see here. It says I'm signed in on another device. Hopefully I'm on my regular one. Check here. All right. I was logged in to the Seeker's Place and Elijah's using that right now. So hopefully I didn't kick her off. Get on my personal account,
All right.
my fuzzy video. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well. Got off another call with another good friend, and it's been a good day so far.
Cool, man. I've had a lot of things expand since we talked last. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm learning how to keep up with the rate of expansion. And at this point in time, I'm not doing the best job at managing that, mostly because I've had other things I've been doing as well. But yeah, I'm just curious as to what we're getting into today and can share some of my insights and all of that good stuff too. But just based off of last conversation, I didn't get a whole lot of time to review anything of what we talked about. But
Yeah. So last time we talked, just the two of us, it was was really starting to explore some of the, I don't know, some of the pieces that kind of locked away or had pushed away. And so I'm starting to lean into owning more things that before were sort of like scary or that I didn't want to have to deal with. And so, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say something I've mastered or conquered by any stretch of the imagination, but it's certainly like at this point, I'm like, anytime I'm engaging with the experience, it's something I'm wanting to do now, instead of, oh my gosh, I have to do this, or it's like, it doesn't feel like, like torture or suffering. It's just like, okay, this is another thing that I get to enjoy in the moments when I need to be doing this, and just going through the experience like fresh. This is something I don't know how to do. I need to approach it like any new thing. It's like, let's just see where it goes and let it be what it is, like you said.
Yes, sir.
So yeah.
I know it's painful at certain points of, I don't know, some of them are a lot easier than others. It's like
Yeah.
you can see it and you can allow yourself to feel it, and
Mhm.
it's easy to transmute. But then there are some things like what I'm accessing now, because as you're saying that to me, I'm like, that's exactly what I need right now. Is my own advice, because I come across, when I begin to expand, it's so overwhelming and frustrating
Mhm.
because there's so much new information
Yeah.
and there's nowhere for it to go.
Mhm.
And I want to expand so much faster than the architecture can hold,
Right. Mhm.
but I don't know how to harness that. But that's what I'm doing right now. And what I'm sharing with other people is exactly how to do that.
Mhm.
And what I would share with anybody else is to be patient with your own process. And when
Yeah.
you get to this point where it feels all muddied up, to honor that and recognize you're growing, you hit your ceiling, you
Mhm.
need to build more architecture before you can do anything else.
Mhm.
So that can be more of my messaging. I had so much stuff come through about
Mm.
messaging, about what this actually is, about what it does for people, because what I had recognized was part of what you were sharing with me. I was hearing it, but then I'm like, I don't quite resonate with, like, I'm not a Trello coach. I'm not,
Mhm.
this or that. And I don't
Yeah.
connect with that. But it opened up a pathway for
Yeah.
me to see what it really is, because it it does a lot of different things, but in all reality, it's going to be an app eventually. It's just that this is the ground floor, and these are the
Mm.
iterations that people need, that I don't know how to build all of it out yet,
Mhm.
as far as specific templates for people, because I haven't had the opportunity to do it after I did it myself.
Mhm.
So I guess I have like 4 requests right now of things I can put together.
Mhm.
And that means I need to build those before I go and request anything else and
Mm.
harness this level of data that I'm working with before I take anything new in, because
Mhm.
it's starting to be too much again. I'm going to take this weekend and really sort some things out. But
Mhm.
just from the conversation we had the other day, it was apparent to me that I have a certain thing in mind, which I started to put a template together. I wanted to put a template together for what you had shared with me before this
Mhm.
call, but it just didn't
Mhm.
work out that way. So
Yeah.
I let myself off the hook for that. But I did create a basic template. Um, but I just started it. I didn't,
Mhm.
it's nowhere near finished, and I
Mm.
can tell what I need to do with it. So I started, and I put in parentheses where I would need to add things in, but just letting it kind of flow out rough draft,
Yeah.
and what I would need to add, because I want it to be so simple that somebody that isn't familiar with it could put it together. But also, I wrote this out. I feel like this is the heart of it, is yeah, what does this look like with no hassles and the lowest upkeep possible? But like getting it to somebody to where they don't have to figure all this out and put all this in. I mean, I'm going to give the option for it, but
Mhm.
where's the simplest version? And how do I deliver that on a mass scale, which to me
Mhm.
is an app that already does this stuff for you. You just learn how to put it in and create your own shortcuts, and then it does it.
Yeah.
So, but again, that's the future, right? That's not
hmm
what I'm doing. Like this instance is, which is great because I'll be able to take people who want this and who use this already and who need this. And if I could find a way to take that from Trello and put that into this new app I'm creating, since there are integrations, have the app designed with that in mind to be able to transfer everything and not have to create new infrastructure. But for people who need something new, they'd be able to create it themselves. This is like I'm way far ahead of where I'm at, is what's happening.
Well, let's try this. I feel like what I'm hearing you say is you kind of know the direction or the target you're trying to hit, but you're also trying to balance what's here right now and what that actually is. What I've found in terms of marketing to people is you show them where they could get to and get them to believe that that's possible by saying, here's the process, you do this piece, which is where you're at now, so that it opens up the door for this, and then you'll eventually be able to do, this thing. So when you have a plan, it helps them start to have that, it cracks open the possibility for them to believe, oh, that's possible. But then it also it creates for them the need to, well, if I want that thing, so what I need to do is engage with what's here and now. So whatever the first step is that you're working on right now, that's the thing that they'll actually need and that you'll need to flesh out first and deliver. But on some level, I think it's helpful for you to know what excites you and why you're building the thing that's right here. And it's also important in the messaging to have some sense of continuity, to be able to allow people to project, oh yeah, that's where I want to be. And so if this is step one to get there, it's like let's start the process. Let's begin. Because you might get somebody who's like, I want all of that. It's like, just what's the package? And so
Basically had a
can I
guy
just
today
jump to the front of the line and pay you $8,000 and do the whole thing? It's like, we'll start from square one, but like, I want to be there. How fast can you get me?
I had a guy today that's basically, he's like, yeah, that sounds great. He's like, what can we do? And he has ADD of some sort. And it's kind of like, I feel like this is the market that needs it. We all have these similar experiences of seeing all these parts at one time and wanting to make sense of it so that this 3D stuff can go more smoothly and not get overwhelmed with the inundation of information that exists. And just being able to share that, but like how it can actually help. That's what has been coming through. What are the uses of it? And what does it do? So, because before I was just kind of showing you what it was and didn't really get into all of that, but benefits, there are a few things that were coming through that Trello, and I'm gonna have to verify that, but they store unlimited amounts of information that you can catalog and access. So I feel like how you use Google Drive and stuff like that. I mean, at least from what I read last was that there isn't a data cap that you could just store unlimited amounts of information here
Nice.
and they're going to house it. If you're paying the $6 a month is the basic package, but really if you're paying nothing, they're going to house it.
Dang.
So, but the automations and being able to do more automations, what the plan I'm on is $15 a month,
Mhm.
but it's totally worth it. It has everything, it does everything that I need. And mine's more complex than I would imagine most people are going to need. They could probably do a $6 plan and be fine. For some people, they don't even need a plan, but the cool thing is the function won't work. It'll tell you that it doesn't work. You'll get an email, and then you can sign up for the next level up at $6, and then it'll start working again.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a thing to where you anticipate it. You can just use it until you outgrow it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. It's all automated, so you don't have to think about what to do next. You don't have to try to remember all the appointments or dates or things that need to be done. And you can keep detailed records that evolve as you do. Best of all, it's all in one place. That's what I like. I hated not having everything in one place. I mean, I'm still taking things from other places and simplifying it, but I've recognized that now that is done, like the overflow in other places is done. It doesn't exist now because I have it in one place. And then things no longer slip through the cracks. It frees up massive amount of energy to pour into your vision and bandwidth to be more present and perform at a higher level. Which, for people trying to become more conscious, I do feel like there's a level of consciousness expansion to this. It allows you to be more present.
Oh man. Okay, so this is what I love about sitting down with you is like I'm taking in the stuff that you're saying, but I'm also getting like kind of the back end like energetics of things, like kind of the spiritual, like, so here's the face, here's the facade of what people usually see, but like I'm feeling the blueprint of the whole building. But then what it makes me feel, or what it makes me think of at the same time, is like, oh, as I drive past this facade, it's like I understand what a building is. Like, oh, I could go build a building. It's like that's what it feels like to me. And so like as you're talking, what I realized about what I'm doing is like in the bigger scheme of things, which you're talking about, like, okay, here's these things, but like there's also this bigger thing kind of at play here. And it immediately brought up for me, it's like, okay, I just realized that everything I'm doing is like the marketing for the context of creating connection and building community, because your business is the people that are connected to you. And so like if you can actively build community, like you're building a more solid foundation for a business. And for anybody who's a solopreneur or coach or entrepreneur, it's like I'm teaching startups how to build a solid community so that their brand, their customer base can grow and they can be monetized throughout that process. And I'm realizing, like, because I'm looking at Trello, I used to use Trello, and for a long time it was free. And then they finally have introduced these like paid tiers. And the way that the startup community works is people know how to speak the language of money to investors. And they're like, hey, we have an idea. We've done the research to know that there's a hole in the market. Somebody gives us like, $250,000 or a couple $1 million, like whatever I don't know, the numbers of how startups work, but like they'll do fundraising rounds where they're just like, all right, let's get some investors who can get the ball rolling, and we'll start building out the thing to find out what it is. And you keep serving those customers, you keep refining the product, you keep making it better until it's like, okay, we've just built the bare amount of stuff that people want, and kept asking that customer base, what do you want? They have money coming in, like that's pumping blood through the system, before they need to be profitable. They can discover what the real product is before they really have to like make it stand on its own legs, so to speak. And so what I'm realizing is like, as I'm helping you, as I'm helping other people create the marketing that, and then for some people they're like, I actually want to build solid community culture in my business. Like I'm cutting my teeth on the very basics of a pitch to like a Silicon Valley, type place where I can go say, here's my case studies of I've helped X amount of communities of startups take their brand from zero to X amount of dollars. Like my expertise and my industry authority is in helping startups build community, which is what you need to like. Even if you have seed money and you have the right engineers, it's like you need customers and people who use the product and are willing to tell you what they want you to build and to feel like they have some ownership of it, and then will tell their friends about it. Like, I just realized like what I'm doing is on the path, and I don't need to like know that, and I don't need to see or like dig too far into the future of what that is. But I'm like, wow, like I'm really doing something like right on target for what I should be doing. It just feels slow. It feels like, oh, this is so painful to go like at this pace, but
That's amazing. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Not only, so this is definitely a multidimensional conversation. Not only are you sharing, this example, and I love where you're at in your journey, just to see how effective that is. And it gives me access to, that's what I'm wanting to create as well, is this is to help people expand their consciousness. This is to help people to get more present. Like those are the two things that this ultimately does. How does it do it? By organizing your stuff so you don't have to think about it. Like that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And the community, it's about the consciousness community. Like it's about people who want to be more aware. And that's who I'm really wanting to reach. And so, and so as you were sharing that, like the whole thing with funding, because I've been thinking of that as well, and just the usefulness of, I need to be able to articulate this and know exactly what this is. But the more people that I share this with, the more everybody's like, yeah, I can use this. Well, all right, conceptually, that's great. And it's been working for me. But how do I get it to people? Because a lot of people are going to want this. And I want it to work well. I don't want it to be something that people are like, oh, I tried that. It was really buggy. I had a bad experience with it. They didn't have good customer service. It's like, I know this thing is like a home run. Yeah. And I want the full team to be able to serve people and at the standard that I know a company needs to run at, because I am probably like the number one person that could chew out somebody, and not a sales rep, not somebody who's just doing a customer service job, but like, hey, you're not running your company well. I'm not being taken care of as a customer. This is why. This is what you're missing. Like, I know how it feels to be a customer who hasn't been taken care of. And to have this, like, to show people that I care about their expansion of consciousness so much that, look, whatever you need, because there's tools to this as well. So as you're saying, like, it feels slow, but it's about the mindset. It's about the encouragement, the support of a network of people, that it's like, okay, I hit this ceiling. It feels awful. Cool. Like, we have resources. We have a community here that share your wins, share your losses, come in. There are people here to support you, and not just people in the community itself, but like people who are on staff. Like, that's their job, is to support people and basically say, hey, I see you keep fucking going. Like, yeah. So anyway, wherever that just took me, this is all here. And this is what's been coming through in such large batches that it feels uncontainable at this
Yeah.
point. But once it comes out, then I can start to put it where it needs to go. For right now, it just feels really overwhelming because I'm receiving so much.
Mhm.
And I know that there are other people in the same position. That's the other, like another thing that it does is there are people who are receiving such massive visions of
Mhm.
what they can do to create the new earth and to
Yeah.
make a real change in the world, but they don't have the structure to do it.
Mhm.
And this is the beginning of becoming familiar with the structure that will give them access to create their own thing and know that it's an integrity with their vision and it's not just handed off to somebody who's
Yeah.
going to turn it into money.
Mhm.
Right? Part of me, I'm like, this is too big, right? But this is what the people who are needing this are going through.
Mhm.
This is too big of a vision. I can't do this. This is
Mhm.
so massive. I still need to make money and eat
Yeah.
and spend time with people I love. I can't just do this all the time
Yeah.
because it's taken over my life for the last 3 months in a
Mhm.
way that I've done it comfortably, but I've also really focused in a way that I'm not going to be comfortable if I do
Mhm.
this for another 3 months.
Yeah.
So, but what can help me to simplify this process? Somebody who's already done this, who's built out their entire kingdom and done it in a way that it's true to them. Like,
Mhm.
and that's what I was also receiving. I have all these words just in a different way of like how that really works, because that's what I would want. If somebody
Yeah.
right now basically said, "Hey, I will guide you. You're going to do everything. You're going to give me all of the words and all of the pathways and
Mhm.
everything else. I'm just going to draw the map. But I'm not just going to draw a 2D map. I'm going to draw a 5D map.
Yeah.
And you'll know how to traverse the land the structure that you have, laid out. You've told me all the parts, you just didn't see how they come together.
Mhm.
And this allows that to exist in a harmonious way."
Mhm.
Is this part of what we're doing today? I was just curious. I know like there's like an hour slot in this call, but I wasn't sure what you were expecting to do and what we were actually doing. So
Yeah. No, this is exactly what I do with people is like
okay.
open up the space for stuff to come tumbling out, um and then we'll just kind of suck up all the pieces, and then I mean, what we're doing, the way I would describe it is like you've got like a pinata built out of Legos, and we're knocking, legs off, tails off the donkey. It's like whatever stuff falls down, it's like what can we break off the iceberg? And then it's like, all right, so my job is like gather all the pieces, like break them all into like individual components, and then we say, all right, here's the material. What could we build with this that people are gonna walk and be like, whoa, that's really cool. Um, I've never seen one of those before. That's what we want to do, is find the thing that's universally appealing, but unique in that it's new. So
Yeah.
that's what we want to create. And so a lot of this process is like just hearing you describe things like drawing a map of like the 5D landscape, helping people, organize their stuff so that they can live their purpose. It's like, because what you're really about is helping people achieve like a bigger consciousness and expand their experience. It's like we're starting to have the formula or the framework of like what exactly happens when I get into a relationship with Bobby, like as a coach, or like if I hire you to help me, do something, what am I getting? And this is sort of what it is. It's like, so your specialty is if you're on this spiritual path or just realizing there's more to your experience, like I facilitate expansion and help you go on this journey of consciousness. And the way that I do that is you got to start organizing your stuff. If you feel like the pipe isn't big enough for the amount of information that you're constantly exposed to, it's like we gotta build you a bigger pipe. You gotta organize things in a way that allows you to sort information as it's coming in as fast as it comes in. Otherwise, you're just always gonna feel like you're bailing water.
Mhm. Yeah, that's that was coming through loud and clear. I feel like that was something else I wrote down in here as well, but I was going to see if there was anything that I had missed that I wrote down earlier that could also contribute to anything else. But that is that's precisely it. Is and what happens when you do that? Excuse me. It first opens you up so that you can manage the flow better, but then it allows you to be able to reduce it so that your filter, like your filtration system,
Right.
that you're building behind it more or less. So it's like you have a bigger pipe that feeds the information, but you create a filtration system behind it. So that way it's not just this big thing and then it's all trying to turn into human being. It's you have this and we're going to install this and you're going to grow because it's going to be painful. There's going to be things that are blocking you that whatever it is in your field that don't allow this to exist in this way. And we're going to need to then release those and get to this space. And it'll be the same thing. It's going to be a process of growth. You're going to evolve over this period of time. And this is where for the right person, I think this is a $100,000 offer kind of thing.
Right. Absolutely.
I think this is like, I don't want to put a time frame on it, but let's just say we put a result on it of some sort. $100,000, I can take you here. I can map out all of your stuff and get you to a certain level of organization and consciousness. We could do that over, it might be shorter. I really don't know. But I feel like it's worth so much. It's not just, it's not simple. It's not something that's basic. It is changing somebody's world to give them access to their own empowerment at a level that wouldn't have been possible. Because not everybody is looking at this lens and they don't have the architecture to build it out. Like they might be able to take you through it, but then that's why I don't feel like this is a coaching thing, because a coach is going to empower you, but then you got to figure it out. Cool. And that's still what they'll need to do with me. But at the same time, like this architecture supports that to where they can learn how to do that themselves. I think that's the difference.
Tell me how this resonates for you.
Sure.
What I'm picking up on the energy of what you're saying is like for the right person, for somebody else who, just for the sake of example, let's say like a successful energy coach that's already finding some success. They already have a tribe. They already have, their social media marketing stuff working. So they've got consistent money, and they're on this accelerated path of like, I can see that I am growing really fast. And if I don't keep myself up, like in my internal work, I'm going to run out of runway, and the business is going to try and keep expanding and expanding, and I'm gonna like start crumbling under the weight of like all of this stuff that I'm like, I've created a black hole, you know, or like a supernova or whatever. It's like the gravity
Yeah.
of that thing that's coming into being, that's alive now on its own without me feeding it. In order for me to keep up and still be in charge, I have to keep doing work to expand along with the process. And so for somebody who already kind of understands the language that you tend to use, they would view you perhaps more like a peer, as opposed to like a service provider. And so maybe you could do this in a way where, I mean, obviously there's going to be a transaction, but it's somebody who like, I'm not even perhaps interested in copying your system, but like looking at it in the way that I can learn so much just from watching somebody else in their own element do their thing. So you can, part of what you can do is like, here's how I use my process. Here's the best version of it as I understand it for me and what it does for me. And like you explaining and finding a way to simplify the demo of how it works for you, how you've mapped your brain, how you've mapped your processes. And then somebody who is a little bit more dimensionally advanced, they're going to look at it not as, oh, that's the system I need to use, but it's like, I get the principle of what's happening on like the small and large scale. And so they may not even use any piece of your system, in practice, but you know, like maybe they use Trello as a tool, but maybe they use some other project management thing to manage the mechanics of their business, but they hadn't thought about applying it to their life. And so they may watch you do your demo, do a workshop, and be like, oh, okay, so I could do this in Asana and map my own thing out. And so then you just become the advisor and like, okay, well, foundationally, in order for you to start giving names to these things, what are some of your processes? What are some of your places that you go in your journey, in your lifestyle, and start giving names to these things so that they can organize it in a way that makes sense to them, since they're going to have to use it. But it feels like you could probably use a lot of the language that you're using and find somebody who they understand the value of this, not from a, oh, well, you're going to get like a worksheet and I'm going to teach you my framework and I'll have like a copy and paste, set of Trello boards that you can use and get you up to speed. It's like, I'm going to show you my like magic sauce process. And I expect that the right person is going to come in and have an experience seeing this, and it's going to turn on, oh, this opens up a whole new set of possibilities for me. Like that's what kind of comes through for me.
Yeah, I do feel like that's who I would ideally be working with, is people who are, I don't even know if it's only people who are beginning to expand more, but really just people who recognize the value that their continual expansion is reliant on organization.
Yeah.
That I saw a quote about, I appreciate it because it talked about organization. Let's see if I can pull it up here. But it was basically about like good and bad needing to counterbalance. I won't spend too much time searching for it, but I know it's been in the recent months. So let's take one quick look. There we go. definitely put that to my favorites, but yeah, so it just reminded me, I mean, this is a spiritual, there's a thing with spiritual warfare, but those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. And yeah, Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, that's the reality of it is if we're trying to do something in the world, we need to learn how to effectively organize ourselves to be able to align with the things that we believe in. And I think this is, I mean, it's really for dreamers, for people who want to make a difference and want to make something happen in the world. And they just can't quite get there. So that's something else I would I'm gonna get into these real quick and just read them to you because I feel like there's a bunch that might connect some more pieces for both of us. So I do have some other things in the way of it, speaking of needing to organize, but yeah, my processor list, I got about 25 things now, which that lets me know I'm overwhelming the system. Let's see, do you have a vision so massive that you don't have the housing or architecture or structure to support it? Do you want to build it yourself but don't know where to start? Do you want somebody else to build it for you, but only off of your suggestions and vision? We kind of talked about that. Yeah, so don't just make the change, be the change. So join a cause, be the change, and change the world. Now that's part of something else that I'm developing, get involved as a nonprofit I want to do. But I feel like this is a part of that. Like, do you want to build out your own vision? You don't have, like, for now, what resources do you have? This is how you can get involved. But also, would you like to get involved by creating your own vision, your own force, and have other people support you in creating that vision? If something like that already exists, that would be amazing because I would sign up to try to get backed for sure.
Yeah, something that comes up for me is, you know, for artists or for, you know, people who are very intellectual, kind of energetically led, you know, spiritual types, philosophers. It feels like anybody who's had a little bit of leadership experience has gone through the experience of like, oh, I need to become more organized in order for me to effectively communicate and give other people what they need. So I've already had the experience of what that does, but it's sort of like, but nobody's being the boss or like making me do that for myself. So it's like in the areas where I need to do it, I'm willing to do it and I already understand how to do it. But in the areas that are like less urgent for myself, it feels like, why can't I translate those systems and those processes automatic that I already know how to do and start using them in a way that feels good for me? And so it's sort of like, if you're already used to being the leader for other people, what about for your own processes and emotions and actions and versions of you? It's like, are you going to be the general and like the leader of all of the things that make up who and what you are? It's like, because as long as you don't get yourself organized and start telling everybody that is under the umbrella of what you are, it's like, here's where to go, here's what the plan is. And those of you who are kind of just like low level processes and systems, like, you don't really need to know anything, but just like go do the thing. If you're not doing that process for you, you're leaving a whole bunch of your capacity on the table, because all you're doing is like, I'm only building out stuff when other people ask me for it in order to manage. And you've already seen what you can do kind of like half-assed when somebody else wants you to step up to the plate. If imagine what you could accomplish if you were able to do that for yourself. And so like what you really specialize in, like navigating that transition of like being the organized guy for other people, but not for yourself. Taking what you've already built and the structures that you already know. Here's a model of how to apply that internally to the things that you navigate and feel and think and organize inside of you, so that all the rest of the stuff can become even more efficient and can scale.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thanks for taking that through the Aaron centrifuge and expressing it back. Yeah, I mean, that's it. There are deep connections to this. And so that just reminds me of an aspect of this, of the original part of the app that I really wanted to create. And is kind of a separate app, is the Soma processing app. But what I began to find is that this is really, it's an awareness app that people are able to check in and to map the constellations of what experiences they're having. So then they can begin to bring that together with what emotions are happening all at the same time to create overwhelm. And what are the things that tie into that? And if you can resolve those one at a time, if you can approach those and get to acceptance with those one at a time, then it can be a lot easier. But, to have that, like you're just in the middle of something, but to be able to select the ones that you're feeling and then possibly write a little bit of something about it, but then get to actually choose which one you're wanting to process first, like which one's the easiest to process, a little prompt, which one of these feels like you could actually approach it with ease. And if there aren't any, there would be suggestions, but for the most part, you can approach this one. Where would that lead you? But it would take you through the process so you could begin to do it for yourself. And that's just one aspect of what this type of mapping can do, and the organization of what seems to be. And it's not even that it seems to be, it is. It's disorganized. It's disorganized information because it's too much information. And when you begin to simplify it and place it in front of you in a way that makes sense, that you can take one bite at a time rather than trying to eat the whole steak at once. I'm giving you a knife, basically. Here is a knife. You can cut that. You don't have to swallow it all at one time. Because we can't. So unless you have something to add in, or that was coming up, I have a few more things to.
No, what I'm seeing right now is like, what if all you had to do was build out this, like just the messaging, just the framework, just the stories, and then if somebody wants to see your thing, it's like, sure, I'll show you. But what I'm realizing is like, this could be like a $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 container, where people like me or other people who highly value things that people do, it's like I could sit and have a conversation with you, and I'm absorbing what I need. I'm already realizing like I don't necessarily need to copy Bobby's system. It's like the process of you building it out the way you did fulfilled all kinds of other requirements besides just the problem you were trying to solve. It fit you. Like me solving that problem for myself will use the same elements in principle, but the tool could be different, the approach could be different, the organization could be different. And so if you taught this from a very high level, but like you have a really concrete model that helps people understand, it's like, okay, so first you need to, if we were just gonna talk from it, like from a 40,000 foot level in like spiritual terms, it's like, all right, so you need to create the boundaries of your garden. and then you need to go through and start naming the elements in your kingdom, and then you need to tell them where they need to go, and you need to begin to show up as the ruler, not as the baker or the taxman or like you start allowing those things, those processes and those ideas to like go where they need to go on their own. You need a system that does that for you. You could copy my system, or you can see the blueprint for it and then you make your own. But it really just becomes you making yourself available at a very expensive level for the right people who all they need to do is just get in proximity with you. And by you opening up that channel, they can absorb the parts that they need. It's like, this is what I'm looking for. Okay, I already have 4 ideas of how I'm going to implement on this. And I don't really want to see your system because it's just going to be slower for me to copy somebody else's thing. It's like, it'll be faster for me to do it my own way, but like use the principle at work here. I think that could be a potential, like, if all you do is say, here's the framework, here's exactly what you're getting in terms of the idea. And I only can work with people who are like at a high spiritual level, where when you have conversations with people, you can absorb a mirror and like understand deeper than what they're saying. Those kinds of people I can help right now. The rest of the stuff like will need to be built out. And it's like, if you want that experience where I'm doing things for you, it's like, we'll talk about that. That's a whole different kind of offer. But you could start
I love that.
like a low ticket, like $1,500 or like a $2,000, like this will be like a four 60-minute calls. And it's like, we're done. 250 bucks a pop for each session. And it's like, I'm not going to make you anything. I'm just going to energetically dump on you, and like you sift through what is necessary and what you need. But this is what you're getting in terms of, this is what it's done for me, and this is what I'm able to transmit through other ways besides like giving you a product or like, here's my handy worksheet kind of thing. I think there's definitely like an audience that could sit down with you, and over the course of a couple conversations, you just work on what do I need to do to synchronize to their energy so that they can tap into the things that I'm doing here. And then it's like, you don't need to create or build or communicate anything. It's like they can do it on their own. You're just facilitating the energy work of it.
Yeah, what comes up for me with some of that is lead-ins. Like, is there something, and I guess I'll just need to get a clearer picture, but being able to communicate what they would receive, and maybe some of the building blocks and how some of these things come together. Being able to communicate that through copy and through videos and through other things, so that people can start to get a taste of what I'm actually talking about. Because when it comes down to it, I mean, this is massive what I have, and there's no way I could explain it in a short amount of time. But if I could give little pieces of it, little tidbits, and just say this leads into something much larger. But I do like the thought of having that. Like, I was even thinking a group, like a mastermind kind of thing. I guess I don't know what it would be called if I was sharing, but for people to be able to express what's going on with them, and then other people can observe what's happening with people, because I feel like I learn a lot that way as well, just seeing what other people are processing through, but just being able to take what I have and share the parts of my system, but the energy that's behind it, so people can get access. And then when they have a question, ask the question, I answer the question. And we just keep rolling with it. Like, hey, who else has a question? Like, what sidebar did that give to you? But also having somebody that can take everything we're learning about and document it, so then everybody can have a copy. Here's what happened today.
I love the idea of a mastermind, because then the idea can get refined and evolved in different ways in a much quicker context. So something that was coming up for me as you were talking, and I have another call later, so I don't want to go
Yeah,
over too
what
long.
time, let me say, what kind of time do
It's
you
in
have?
an hour, so we can go over a little bit. But I have
Okay,
a little bit of prep stuff to do.
yeah,
But
you let me know. I'm definitely
yeah,
gonna
so
try
one
to.
thing that I was thinking about, yesterday the Queen died, and the thing that's coming through for me energetically is, this is a very, like, a highly symbolic transition that's happening. For me, what I'm seeing is there's an opportunity for spiritual leaders of integrity to get together and say, for those of you who have taken a hard look at yourself over the pandemic, it's like, just shut out all the rest of the world, and it's like, I'm dealing with me. So you've come through on the other side as a different version of you. It's like, you've let some of these things fall away. You're no longer struggling with some of the things that you've been struggling with. And now, it's like, all right, what next? Like, what happens from here? I know I have a calling. I know that there's a direction, but beyond that, other than just like knowing, okay, I got to show up for what life has for me. But what does that mean? I think this transition, this royal, like, handing off the baton to the next generation, both literally and metaphorically, for people who have done the work, they won't see this purely as an external thing. It's like, this is a very prescient symbolic representation of the energy that I am stepping into. Of the old guard is bestowing on me the responsibility of the world, of the kingdom, of the universe, because I have been trying to embody the best version of who I am. That's what the monarchy represents. It's like, it is this value system that filters all the best of what that society has to offer, and it's represented in an avatar of the royal figurehead. It's like the meeting of the practical and the spiritual. It's like, here's all of the values that we have. It's close to, like a sort of like Christ or savior figure. And so in that sense, like, for people who are starting to see the rest of the world as an extension of themselves, it's like, oh, this experience is like part of me. This, like, the person sitting across from the table is like me in another life, like in another form, like just re-expressed in a different way. And I think it'd be interesting to, like, everybody's consciousness is on the royal, like, what's happening, like the queen passing. The coronation is gonna be worked out and figure out, like, what is that going to look like over the next year? How does that transition actually take place? And I think as that stuff is playing out in the public's consciousness, there's some people who are saying, like, that's my story. That's me being played out in front of me for me to learn something from, on like a spiritual, philosophical level. For people who are in that place, I think it would be useful for people to have like a place where they can voice, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I'm going through. And like, it'd be interesting to like leverage the traffic and the conversation that's happening about this thing to start pulling in people who are at that level, and then say, hey, would this be useful for you in your journey? It's like, what if you could organize yourself a little bit more intentionally the way that you're going on this journey? So anyway, that was kind of like a long rambling thing, but I don't know what came up for you.
Yeah, well, it's happening. That's where the kingdom's coming in. It's something that we've been working on for a little while, but as this happened, it was more of, you had mentioned that people were talking about something happening in September, and for, I guess, discernment of, yeah, the medium and the platform that we're on, of the what it actually means. Like it is a changing of energy, but it's a shift in this energy that technically harvests humanity to an energy that allows us to expand. So it's this massive shift in that sense of sovereignty and conscious beings. And that is something that's going to be happening more and more. And it already has. It's already ridiculous how much things are expanding and how many people that never had access to these frequencies are now getting access and beginning to see things differently. So the more we starve the old guard, the more the new energy is going to be coming in. And it's just something that how can, as you were talking, what came up for me was, how can I encourage this? How can I be a part of extending this? And it's not about me. That completely showed up of, I don't care if somebody steals my stuff. I don't care if people spread it all over the place and don't have my name on it. If this happens for other people, that they can begin to embody this. Yeah. That is what I want for humanity. And I don't care. I really, if everybody started having access to this, and it was because of something, right? This is more of my ego, because of something I did, I would be so happy about that. And the first inkling is like, ooh, I want people to like, oh, thank you so much for doing this. And then I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't, if that's actually keeping me from sharing this, because I'm afraid that somebody else is going to get credit for somebody's consciousness expanding when we're constantly doing it for each other all the time. So you helped to get my ego out of the way a bit on that, of just being able to see, I just want people to experience this. I'm done trying to control however I was trying to control that. Because if people get access to this and share it with others, holy shit, it's going to spread. For lack of better terms, like a virus. It's something that unlocks the potential of freedom. And that's what I'm here for. So let's do this. I love that.
You know,
where
as you were talking, something came up for me. It's like, I just realized like the role that the ego plays. It's like a lot of times we fight it because it's operating from a selfish place. But I'm realizing like the more that you like flip things upside down, you start getting pointed in the right direction. The ego drive is like, that's that piece that kind of grounds you and connects you to everybody else. It's like, watch me, help me like follow through on things. Like it's part of the cord that tethers you to everybody else in the human race. Because if you didn't have that thing, you know, if you just completely detach and just have the divine experience, you're like, I don't really need to do anything. It's like, I can just exist and be, and like, why would I create anything new? Why would I like
spiritual bypassing?
Everything's perfect. Everything's perfect. It's like, it's amazing. Why don't I just park here and experience this forever? It's like that drive to, it's like, hey guys, look at what's possible. Look at like pay attention to me, because I know something that nobody else knows. And it's like, once you have a lot of the baggage out of the way and you actually know some of the direction like that you're on and who and what you're supposed to become, it's like, that thing is a very valuable resource to keep lighting a fire under your butt to do something. Because otherwise, like, I think this is what Sarah struggles with me. It's like, she's a lot more connected to 3D experience, and I'm a lot less connected to it. And she's frustrated with me because I'm like, I don't feel the need to like hustle and do as much because I'm like, I have so much of my experience is internal. And like there's a very real aspect of there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, it's like you're here and you can, so why would you not? And like allowing that ego to like grow and be a thing that directs and prompts and guides. It's like at some level that guy kicks in and it's super useful. But a lot of our experience, like we're used to like just stomping that thing, like get out of the way, you're just messing things up. But yeah, it's just like that was a really cool thing to see. It's like, man, everything about me has a place and has a purpose and a role, and it's like just getting to know myself more. It's like,
It
man,
has a lot of wisdom.
really cool, really amazing.
Yeah. A lot of wisdom in those ego parts.
Mm.
And they allow you to expand. So the less we deny them or tell them that they're bad and judge them and try to push them away, it doesn't do us any good. It doesn't allow us to actually connect with our humanity. And it's a bypass. And so when you said that, it reminds me of all the bypasses. I've been talking a lot about this lately, but I feel like I would love to create a TikTok series that's an algorithm, like it's an algorithm buster, but it's about bypassing. So it's like a wake up series. Wake up, you're spiritually bypassing if, or however, all the different bypassings, and just to put out a series. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So we'll add this into the many things that I'm doing. But right, what order do they go in? I'm going to spend this weekend recalibrating, more or less. But yeah, I want to share a couple more of these just to put these into our space here together to give you an idea of more of the amazingness that's coming through. But yeah, materialize your vision is what I've been calling this part of it. But materialize your vision allows you to harness your dreams, but not stagnate or limit them. It allows you to consciously expand by honoring the old and ushering in and receiving the new. It opens a door to possibility and a pathway to limitless creation. Materialize your vision is a housing that supports building confidence in what you have and what you know. It clears confusion around what isn't a part of your vision. And it gives you the time and space to discover clarity around what it is that you have to share with the world. The coolest thing is that you can bulk items together, like the consciousness or conscious connection card can add the person's name and be placed with it. This is more about the Trello system in the calendar, so that you have that, not only their card with all the information and history, but direct open meeting and closing activities for each thing that you're doing, which I like that. You can.
Oh my gosh, dude. I just realized that you're doing is I mean, I'm just gonna use this language without even knowing what it means. I've jumped into this, but this is my impression energetically. What's happening is you're creating a system that allows people to do digital voodoo. It's like I'm gonna externalize internal things, give them a name, and then reorganize them in a new way. So it's like I'm helping my brain see how I want reality to connect and be organized. So then like once I take that back in, that reality manifests out in my that's what you're helping people do.
This is it. I take massive concepts and I help people to create their own construct, and then they embody it. But you have to get rid of all the old stuff. And the thing is, when you begin to visualize this, start to go through the process of those things, right? That don't
ridiculously powerful. Like
I'm just
starting to get like scratch the surface of like how amazing this system could be. It's more than just like,
It's more than a system. That's why I'm like, I need to, like, all the
yeah,
things that I'm sharing, I'm like, I don't think you understand what I was sharing before because I didn't really tell you. And you
yeah,
only had your own interpretation to go off of. So here's what's coming in for me to share.
huh?
And there's more to it than even this. But as I continue to develop that and
Yeah.
bring it together for myself, more pieces will come in.
Mhm.
I'm glad you're starting to see. It's just massive. That's what I'm saying. This is
Yeah.
like 100K. I mean, for people who have a lot of money
Mhm.
that don't have access to this, I think it's invaluable. This is something
Mhm.
that you can't buy. At least not that I know of. I have never heard of somebody selling this.
Yeah. Okay. So then
But
in that,
Trello system, right? Like that was my 3D way of trying to share it with the world. Like, hey, I got a Trello system, help you to organize.
yeah. Okay. So what I'm seeing is like what you're doing is you're giving people access to uh essentially you're giving them an interface to get into creational flow energetics.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody who knows that, you know, you can call it whatever you want, manifestation, realizing your vision, creating the reality that you experience. If you're somebody who knows on some level that that is possible, perhaps you've even unconsciously been competent at that, but you don't have a system where that is consistent. It's like everybody has their frameworks, has their way of describing it and process, but like this gives you an interface. So it's like if your kid grew up in a world where all you ever do is interact with the internet and with computers by talking to Siri or talking to Alexa. And it's like that's on some level some sort of wall. There's a gatekeeper. It's like this is the energetic equivalent of I'm giving you a mouse and a keyboard that have a built-in uh, system that, like, when you have an idea, it will create a little program or code something for you. It's like you don't have to learn how to be a coder. You already know what you need and what you want, but it's like I can help you build a box that is essentially an AI interface to creation energy. So if you want to speak something out new into existence, instead of like, well, let me just like say it 300 times before I go to bed and do my little like, you know, masturbate before I like go to bed kind of thing. It's like, no, this is a way for you to turn your thoughts into concrete things you can move around, give it names, give it identities and spaces, and then begin to connect those things and create new things. And then once your mind, once your body reabsorbs those things on the new level that you've mapped out, that stuff becomes real. And you can start to learn that by just being more organized with the way you operate with your thoughts and how you journal and how you take in information. But the bones of this system are built so that you essentially, I'm giving you a mouse to the universe. It's like, that's what this is.
Yeah. I love all this. That ties into the exact next thing I was going to read here. The more pieces you get, the more you can piece together your understanding. The system's great for people who have a lot to do or have a lot that they want to do over a lot of different areas of their life.
Yeah.
And they're having trouble keeping it all together. They haven't found an effective system that's customizable to do what they need. Let's see here. That's more of the structure of it. This architecture allows you to be a bit faster. I don't think that's the words that I said. So to something faster, to see what's working, what's not, and what's working in real time. What was I trying to say there? Pivot. To be bit, to pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it allows you to pivot faster to see what's working and
Mhm.
what's not working in real time. Because that is, I feel like that's something that as people can get all of these things into space and see how they fit together,
Mhm.
you really do. You see where things don't work very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's more about our thought processes and how effective
Mhm.
they are and our organizational flow and how effective is my processing. I think
Yeah.
that's another usage of this, and that's what really it's helping people to do is
Mhm.
see their own processing in real time and whether or not they're using that effectively to
Yeah.
create. So the creative flow, and you mentioned that was something that's come up before. This is to help people to learn how to. I think those were the exact words I used before. I wanted to search that because I know there's a good card on that too. It's probably already in my Trello list, but creative flow. No, probably someone else. Anyway, how's it going over there? You having massive expansion?
Yeah. This is, I mean, for me, it's like, this is why I love what I do. It's like, I gotta just keep digging and chipping away at the thing until you like crack the geode open. It's like there's a whole world
Yeah.
inside. But like until you find a fissure or like a way in that you can get in there,
Yeah.
it's just kind of opaque. It's like this is a rock. This is a thing. It's like I know it's valuable, I guess, because somebody said it's valuable, but it's like until you experience like the opening up and be like, whoa, that was what was inside. It's like it's
Yeah.
yeah. So
I'm seeing the value. I don't know if I'm just going to share this. I don't know if you know this, which I feel like you probably do, but what you are helping me with is that you're sitting with me long enough with this to try to understand it, that I'm able to explain it to you and therefore be able to explain it to somebody else.
mhm.
So you're just giving me a reflection, and I'm like, nah, that's not really what it is. It's more like this. And then you give me another
Uh-huh.
reflection. I'm like, yeah, that is what it is, but it's also this.
Yeah.
And then you give me another reflection, like, yeah, that too, and this.
Mhm.
And it's fun. So thank you for
Yeah.
being curious to the level that you
Yeah.
are to allow this to expand, because that is a beautiful gift.
Thank
I
you.
feel like I do that for, yeah, I feel like I do that for other people in certain ways. But it is, it's like you care enough and you're curious enough. Like, let's find out what this is. Here, how can we get this out?
Yeah. This is the big boy version of like, what's that little kid's YouTube channel? It's like where he just opens toys and plays with them. It's like that thing is massively popular.
That little Asian millionaire.
Yeah, exactly. He's got like a toy line in the stores now. Just like Ryan's World, I think is what it's called. And
Okay.
it's like that's what I am. That's all I'm doing. Is like I'm just I want to open this new package. What's inside? But yeah, that's
That's fun, man. That's awesome.
yeah, what I was talking to Sarah about the other day, because she was thinking like, I need to build a diet plan for our family. But she was telling me what she wanted to do, and she's like, I know it could help other people. I just don't know how to like get other people to buy it. And I was telling her my thoughts on how she could market it, but it's like it's the same thing what we're doing here. If you just say, well, here's the recipes and here's the calories and that sort of thing, it's like it's just a diet, and those are a commodity. They're a dime a dozen. There's nothing special about it. But when you pick an audience and a niche and you make it really, you help that group understand its value. So like the stuff that was important to her is more of a whole person approach to diet. It's like, if you want to be somebody who's healthier but also more spiritual, you can't neglect like what you're eating and what you're doing for exercise. Otherwise, like you just won't function. Like the spiritual stuff you have access to doesn't work unless the machinery works. And so I was talking to her, I was like, oh, that's how you should sell it. Like Target, like for instance, Adventists are huge on health. If you start connecting the idea that the right diet for you, that's customized to you and like what your body needs, why is all of the early books in the Old Testament, you know, when Moses is creating, like God is helping them create a tabernacle, which is like a representation of a place where God comes and lives. And then we talk about the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Why are all of these dietary and behavioral weirdo restrictions and processes attached to that, creating the temple and tabernacle? And then they do all these rituals over and over without understanding what it means. It's because if you see yourself as the container for God to come do the work, you've got to keep the temple in functioning condition in order to be able to have a clear channel to God. And so once you see the behaviors and the practices, the principle behind it is keep the machinery working. It's like somebody's always there mediating on the people's behalf. Somebody's always paying attention. What is God trying to tell us? And the space where God resides is kept clean, is kept holy, it's kept like it's cared for. And it's like, holy shit, that's what I'm supposed to be doing with my body. So all of these things like, don't eat this crap, don't do that thing, like this is really bad for you, like the things that that's normal for everybody else around you that doesn't understand the vehicle you're driving, don't do the things that everyone else is doing. That's that sort of like ritual washing and cleansing. It's not the stuff that does it, it's why are you doing it that creates all of these energetic ripple effects. And when you connect that, then the diet's suddenly like way more valuable. It's like you can't put a price tag on being able to talk and commune directly with God and become the version of yourself that you were created to be. And I think in a way, it's like that's what we're trying to do here. Is like, what is it? What is the message of what you're doing? And I'm just starting to crack open and like see what this thing is so that we can start to communicate that well. And I'm like, as I'm as I'm sitting here like hearing you describe it, it's like my mind is just being blown with like what this is. So I feel like this is gonna be a lot of fun to craft out, and because it's more than just like, oh, this is the Trello system.
It leads to conscious living, as you express that with eating. It's about conscious living. That's where this ends up. That's really, I have several huge projects that I'm really excited to do one day. And that's where a lot of this begins, is through conscious living. And there's so many different aspects to conscious living that, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people involved. It's going to take a team. And that's something that I'm excited to dive into. But this first part, this is where I start. This is how things get established. This is what I've been called to develop first. And this is what's going to sustain the rest of the vision. And, financially and otherwise, because as I build out this architecture and I help other people to build their architecture, it's going to help me to level up and expand my architecture. So it's what I'm doing right now. I just want to serve as many people because it's going to level us all up and it's going to change the world. So I'm ready. But I love what you brought up there. Is she getting into intentional eating?
Yeah, I don't think she's crystallized what she's going to actually do, but she's like, we need to get off of sugar and reduce our gluten intake. And like I've personally had like some really energetic and kind of like external things really like prompt me that like if I can bring my sugar and gluten intake way down, it's like those are lactose, like milk. It's like these are things that are for different variations of consciousness. It's like these are baby foods. So if you continue to ingest like milk for mammals is like what babies need to but that's the input, that's the programming that the biology is looking for. So you keep drinking lots of milk, eating lots of sugar, it's like you're going to have the outcomes. So it's like ADD is not a condition when you look at a 2-year-old. It's like that's just what 2-year-olds do. Is like they're scattered, they're just subconscious straight out their mouth. It's like, but we have a diet and lifestyle that kind of keeps you in like a childlike state, which is great for like spiritual awakening. And like if you just are there long enough to see, oh, this is what we're supposed to do. But then at some point you have to like graduate and you can't stay in that state. And so it's like, all right, so getting fit, eating better, getting rid of the things that I like but I know aren't good for me. It's like part of the maturing process is like I don't need necessarily the fun anymore. I need the what's right for me now. And because the things I'm doing, like that's where the fun, that's where the pleasure comes from. It's like these higher level things. So you kind of give up the lower level stuff. And anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. I know I need to kind of wrap things up here in a few minutes, but
yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. And why I asked about intentional eating, there's something out there called intuitive eating that maybe you guys could look into, but it's really about listening to your body. What does your body need right now? Because sometimes your body does need meat. Sometimes your body does need these other things. And so just to be able to truly listen to what it's telling you and then to feed it that, because that's what we become. And one of the things, so I went through the whole thing with caffeine, with alcohol, with meat, and just kind of found out what those things did to my body. So dairy, gluten, and being able to witness a transformation. So for some of those, it's very apparent what those things do, and there's this immediate result physically. But for the other things, there are a lot of subtleties of what it actually restricts you from. So in terms of consciousness and being able to be present and all of that, it does restrict you from having full access to your entire being, because you are putting in this thing, and some of it's about doing it unconsciously, and that can be a majority of it. But what if your body doesn't even want that thing? What if it can't tolerate that thing? Think how many people eat Taco Bell and they're like, man, Taco Bell gives me the shits. Yeah,
well, stop eating it. Yeah,
your body's trying to tell you something, but it tastes so good. Okay, but that's such unconscious behavior, and it's accepted. All right, we laugh at it because it's just like, how is that? I don't know. It's we're getting to a point that I think in humanity, as far as the conscious community, it's like how can we continue to allow ourselves to do that and still be in integrity with what we know about what you had said about this is how are we going to embody God?
Yeah.
If we are feeding it stuff that isn't food, a lot of the stuff just isn't actual food. It's modified and it's not food anymore. It looks like food, it tastes like food, but it doesn't actually sustain you. So with that, are we wrapping up here? You got to get going.
Yeah, I gotta get going.
All right, man.
I feel like I got a great start for this.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we hit all the points because there's a couple that were just the same thing over and over. But I did have one thing, I'll just put it on this so that way you have it, you can watch it later. What would make it most effective for people to see how this works, implement it, and actually integrate it into their life? What are the steps? And could I create that so that the app or the system will guide them and remind them to create the habits and mindset necessary to embrace the architecture? That's the little in between that I started to see. How do I help people to interface with the
Right.
interface to their
Mhm.
consciousness? So, yeah, man, thanks for an awesome session.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what do we do next?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing right now is just kind of meditate on this. I think what I would like to do is I want to build out a framework and bounce it off of you and see if like, does this encapsulate kind of at a high level? Here are the 3 steps and mechanisms. So it's like as you blow it up and zoom in at each piece and you put it under a microscope, it makes sense in terms of the bigger thing of what it is, but it simplifies it for people so they can, it ties it to something that they know or that they can understand, so they can look at it and be like, oh yeah, okay, like I get that, and oh, I want that. And then like how it's delivered, it just becomes like whatever you decide you're going to give them, it's like it fulfills what that bigger, higher level messaging is.
Oh, yeah. Do you send me a link for that, or how do we set that up?
Yeah, so I'll put together a
Something right
draft
now.
of something and I'll send it your way. And then
Cool.
we'll probably book another session for us to talk through and see if it's like, does the language feel like right for the kind of people you want to talk to? Does it feel like it represents you and the thing? And then if it feels like that's good, then I'll start creating the resources and send that stuff to you as assets. Sound good?
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll make up a little template and whatnot off of what you had shared with me, and
Cool.
then we can get something on the books for me to take you through that. So,
Sweet.
all right, man, I'll let you
Bye.
go. Talk to you later.